There was a time when even the simplest act of walking could decide life or death. A time when humanity had no barrier between itself and the raw violence of nature. Beneath its feet. Imagine a world where every step is a test of survival, where the ground itself feels like an enemy beneath your feet. No protection, no comfort, no barrier between human skin and the harsh earth below. This is not imagination for early humans, it was reality. They walked completely barefoot across burning sand that scorched the skin. With every sunrise, they crossed jagged rocks that cut deep into flesh with a single misstep. They moved through frozen ground that numbed their bones and cracked their skin with cold. These were not occasional hardships. They were daily experiences, shaping every moment of existence. In this world, pain was not an exception. It was a constant companion. Every journey to find food, every search for water, every attempt to escape predators began with a single vulnerable step onto an unforgiving surface. The human foot, a perfect tool for balance and movement, was also exposed and fragile without protection, and yet humanity survived. This survival was not easy. It was earned through suffering, endurance, and constant adaptation. The story of shoes begins here not with comfort, but with pain so intense that it demanded change. Early humans lived in environments that offered no mercy. The desert burned like fire during the day and froze like death at night. Forests hid sharp stones, roots, and broken branches under thick layers of soil that betrayed every step. Mountains forced humans to climb unstable terrain where one slip meant injury or death. Plains stretched, endlessly offering no shelter from heat or cold. In all these places, barefoot. Movement was not a choice, it was the only option available. The human foot adapted biologically over thousands of years, developing strength, flexibility, and sensitivity, but adaptation could not eliminate suffering. Blisters formed from heat and friction. Wounds opened from sharp edges. Infections followed every injury because early humans had no medicine or knowledge of bacteria. Simple cut could become deadly over time. Even walking itself required constant awareness, every step carefully placed to avoid unnecessary pain. Children learned early that the ground was not safe but unavoidable. They grew up understanding that survival meant accepting discomfort as normal. This reality shaped human behavior, and even influenced migration patterns as groups avoided certain terrains not because they could not travel, but because the pain was too great to endure repeatedly. The daily struggle of barefoot life extended beyond physical pain. It affected every aspect of survival. Hunting required silent movement across rough terrain where sharp stones could break concentration and alert prey. Gathering food meant walking long distances, across unknown surfaces without knowing what each step might bring. Injuries slowed individuals and weakened entire groups, because survival depended on collective strength, not individual endurance. When one person could not walk properly, others had to compensate, reducing efficiency and increasing risk for everyone. Infections were especially dangerous, because even minor wounds could escalate quickly without treatment. Flies and dirt entered open cuts, leading to swelling, fever, and sometimes death. There was no separation between environment and body. The earth directly interacted with human flesh in both life-giving and harmful ways. Even resting did not guarantee relief, because sleeping on hard or cold ground caused additional pain in joints and muscles. Everyday life was a cycle of movement, pain, and recovery that never fully healed before. Beginning again, this constant suffering shaped early human psychology, making resilience not just a trait but a necessity for existence. Despite these harsh conditions, early humans were observant and intelligent. They studied their environment, carefully noticing patterns in nature that could reduce suffering. They saw animals move across terrain without injury and began questioning how their bodies differed from those creatures. They noticed that certain animals had thick fur or padded feet that protected them from heat and cold. This observation planted the earliest seeds of innovation. If nature could provide protection, then perhaps humans could imitate it. This thinking did not lead to immediate solutions, but it started a long process of experimentation. At first, humans may have tried wrapping their feet in soft materials found in nature, such as large leaves or strips of bark. These attempts were simple and temporary, but they represented a major shift in thinking from passive endurance to active problem solving. Even small improvements mattered. A leaf wrapped around the foot could reduce burning on hot ground or soften the impact of sharp stones. These early experiments were not standardized or universal. They varied between groups depending on environment and available resources, but they shared a common goal: reduce pain and increase survival efficiency. This was the beginning of Human ingenuity in footwear. The first meaningful step toward foot protection likely came from animal skins. After successful hunts, early humans used every part of the animal for survival meat for food, bones for tools, and skins for protection. Softened hides provided a flexible, yet durable material that could be wrapped around the feet. These primitive coverings were not shoes in the modern sense, but they were the foundation of footwear. They were tied with simple cords made from plant fibers or sinew and shaped according to necessity rather than design. They offered protection from sharp objects and reduced direct contact with extreme temperatures. This innovation changed daily life significantly. Walking became less painful and longer journeys became more possible. Groups could travel farther in search of food and water without suffering as much injury. This increased mobility had a direct impact on survival and migration patterns. It allowed early humans to explore new regions and adapt to diverse environments. Animal skin footwear was not just a tool, it was a turning point in human evolution, marking the first time humans deliberately modified natural materials to protect their bodies from the environment. As time passed, these early coverings became more refined. Humans began experimenting with different ways to secure materials to their feet. They discovered that tying straps around the ankle provided better stability than simple wrapping. They learned that drying and treating animal skins made them more durable and resistant to wear. These small improvements accumulated over generations, slowly transforming crude foot coverings into more structured designs. In colder regions, thicker hides were used for insulation, while in warmer regions, lighter materials were preferred. This adaptation showed early signs of design thinking where function influenced form. The development of basic tools such as bone needles allowed humans to stitch materials together, creating stronger and more fitted protection. This innovation marked another leap forward because it introduced construction rather than simple wrapping. Foot protection was no longer temporary. It was becoming intentional and structured. Different communities developed unique styles based on their environment, culture, and available resources. What began as survival necessity slowly evolved into cultural expression even in its earliest forms. The emergence of sandals represented one of the most important milestones in footwear evolution. By cutting and shaping leather or plant materials, humans created soles that lifted the foot slightly above the ground. This simple elevation reduced direct contact with heat and sharp surfaces, significantly improving comfort and safety. Straps held the sole in place, allowing movement while maintaining protection. Sandals were especially useful in warmer climates where full foot coverage was unnecessary and impractical. They became widely used in ancient civilizations where craftsmanship and material knowledge advanced further. These designs were not only functional but also symbolic in some societies, indicating status, profession, or identity. For example, certain materials or decorations were reserved for leaders or skilled workers, showing early connections between footwear and social structure. The sandal represented a balance between simplicity and effectiveness. It was light enough for daily use yet strong enough to protect against environmental hazards. This innovation spread across regions, adapting to local conditions and eventually becoming one of the most enduring forms of footwear in human history. In colder regions, footwear evolution took a different path. Here, protection against freezing temperatures was more important than flexibility or lightness. Humans began using thick layers of animal fur and wool to create insulated coverings for their feet. These early boots were heavier and more complex than sandals, but they provided essential warmth and protection from snow and ice. The design often extended above the ankle, sometimes reaching the calf to prevent cold air from entering. The interior was lined with soft materials to retain body heat, while the exterior was reinforced for durability. These boots allowed humans to expand into regions that would otherwise be uninhabitable without proper protection. This expansion had significant consequences for migration, settlement, and cultural development. It demonstrated how a simple invention could open entirely new environments for human life. The contrast between sandals in hot climates and boots in cold climates shows how footwear evolved not as a single invention, but as multiple solutions shaped by geography, necessity, and creativity. As human societies grew more complex, footwear began to reflect more than just survival needs. It became a marker of identity, occupation, and social status. In ancient civilizations, rulers and elites often wore specially designed footwear made from rare materials and decorated with symbols or patterns that signified power. These shoes were not necessarily more functional than common footwear, but they were visually distinct, indicating hierarchy within society. Artisans and craftsmen developed specialized skills to create intricate designs, turning footwear into an art form rather than just a utility item. In some cultures, footwear was even associated with rituals, ceremonies, and religious practices, showing its deeper cultural significance. The evolution from simple protection to symbolic object illustrates how human innovation often extends beyond necessity into expression. As societies advanced, footwear became part of clothing systems that communicated information about wealth, profession, and social belonging without words. This transformation marked a major shift in how humans perceived objects originally created for survival. Trade and cultural exchange played a crucial role in spreading footwear innovations across regions. As civilizations interacted through trade routes, they shared materials, techniques, and designs that influenced each other's footwear development. For example, leatherworking techniques improved as artisans learned from neighboring cultures, while new decorative styles emerged through cultural blending. This exchange accelerated innovation, making footwear more diverse and sophisticated over time. Some materials became highly valued, such as fine leather dyes and rare fabrics, which were used to create high-quality shoes for elites and traders. The demand for better footwear also increased as travel and commerce expanded, requiring more durable and comfortable designs. Long-distance journeys over rough terrain highlighted the importance of reliable footwear, leading to continuous improvements in construction and materials. The global spread of footwear ideas demonstrates how human innovation is rarely isolated. It grows through connection, adaptation, and shared knowledge across societies. With the rise of industrialization, footwear entered a new era of mass production. Before this time, shoes were handmade and unique, crafted individually for each wearer. However, technological advancements changed everything. Machines began producing shoes faster and more consistently, making them accessible to larger populations. This shift transformed footwear from a luxury or specialized item into a common necessity available to almost everyone. Standardized sizing systems were developed, allowing people to buy shoes without custom fitting. This increased efficiency, but also changed the relationship between humans and footwear, which became more uniform and less personalized. Materials such as rubber and synthetic fabrics were introduced, improving durability, comfort, and affordability. The Industrial Revolution not only increased availability, but also expanded design possibilities, leading to new styles for different purposes, such as sports, work, and fashion. This period marked the beginning of modern footwear industry, where function and mass accessibility became primary goals. As footwear became widely available, it also became deeply integrated into daily life across all social classes. Different types of shoes emerged for different activities: running, walking, working, and formal occasions. Athletic shoes were designed for performance, providing support and flexibility for physical movement. Work shoes were built for durability and protection in harsh environments, while formal shoes emphasized appearance and style rather than function. This specialization reflected the complexity of modern society, where different roles required different tools. Footwear also became closely tied to identity and personal expression. People began choosing shoes not only for comfort, but also for fashion preference and cultural meaning. Brands emerged that represented quality, status, and lifestyle, influencing consumer choices on a global scale. The simple protective coverings of early humans had transformed into a multi-billion-dollar industry, shaping economies and cultures worldwide. Fashion turned footwear into a powerful symbol of identity and creativity, evolving from simple protection into a global expression of style, status, and culture. Yet despite all innovation, the core purpose remains unchanged: protecting human feet from the same harsh environments faced by early humans. Modern shoes, built with advanced materials and design, still reflect that ancient need, connecting us to generations who walked barefoot, experimented with natural materials, and slowly transformed necessity into innovation. Today, every pair of shoes carries this long history, representing not just fashion but human resilience, how discomfort led to invention, survival became design, and a basic need evolved into a worldwide industry and cultural expression.